Mm-hmm. No. Uh, I'll tell you more about that when we're not broadcasting internationally. I'll tell you more about that. All right. Love you. It's a shame that I can see myself sometimes because I should be self conscious and being able to see myself during the podcast and not you. I know. Thank you, Becky. I should be able to, um, I should have some shame, shouldn't I? But the way this is set up, I can see me. I can't see you. So I can't interact with you visually. I can only interact with me visually. It's a very weird sensation if any of you have ever done that. I mean, like if you do a video call, you can see yourself and the other person usually, right? But when I podcast, you're not on the video. It's just me, and occasionally Velvet or one of the other cats, but it's just here. It's not a two-way deal. So I sit here, and Kathy says, "Why the big smile?" I was just testing. That's all. Absolutely nothing to do with anything. By the way, Kathy, uh, I was on the phone with Aurora, and that's why I hadn't hung up yet because we were discussing July 24th, our event. So that call went into overtime. She called me. Hi, everybody. It's 6:03. It is July 13th, 2021. And this, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are unfamiliar, is what we commonly refer to as a live podcast. And it's Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder. If you didn't know, I'm Ken Goldberg. Thus, it's my podcast. I'm the host. If you don't like it, suck it up, click it off, whatever you want to do. I can't help you because it doesn't work any other way because I'm here. It's just me and my cats. What do you want me to do? If you don't like me being the host, you got a better idea, huh, Chump? You got a better idea? Because I don't think you got a better idea. So why don't you just back the up, okay? Sorry, I get into the drama sometimes of my own soliloquies, and when I do that, I kind of reel out of control, but it's only for the moment. Like when I'm calling myself punk, you got a problem, punk? Like, like somehow there's a third person intruding into my head, accusing me of not being a good host of Law and Disorder. It's like, oh yeah, well go screw yourself, okay? You got a better host, bring it, bitch. Hi, Kathy and Michael and Kathy and Chris and Becky. Howdy. And anybody else that's lurking in the woods or in the bushes or whatever you want to call yourself lurking, you're welcome to say hello. And Kathy not only said hello, she included my full name. I was very gracious of her so that I would know she was addressing me and not like the community. I appreciate that. I'm an excellent host. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you. So we're off to a good start. We've got some excellent repartee. I'm, uh, I'm working on being a Russell Brand type host, right? Throw in a couple of repartee, repertoire, leisure. What did I say yesterday? Not leisure, late. I already forgot. Next thing we know, you'll be threatening to kick your own ass. I like that. You got something to say, punk? There's a scene in oh man, come on, help me, folks. not Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, where he's got a gun and he's wearing this leather jacket and he's a taxi driver. Okay, I've got a point here. There's a scene. I don't know. I'm kind of embarrassed when I saw the scene in Taxi Driver. Here's the scene. He's standing in front of a mirror, and remember, he's doing all these rigs, these firearm rigs. He's got one that comes out of his sleeve, a Derringer. And anyways, he's standing in front of a mirror, and he's got a gun tucked down in his pants, and he's got a leather jacket on. This is all from memory, so forgive me if I'm wrong. And he's looking he's looking in the mirror and he's talking, but he's also like checking out, different angles. Can you see the gun? Does he want the gun seen? When I was young, I did that. I was not emulating Robert De Niro. I was simply, putting my gun on when I was a teenager and checking myself out, because you don't want it to be seen, but you may want it to be seen. Wink, wink, nod, nod, right? So when I saw that in the movie, I was like, that's trippy. I know that move. And he's a psychotic, and apparently I have psychotic tendencies. All right, come on. Let's get the shoe on the road. For God's sakes, man. Take over your own show. It didn't just ramble on. I mean, come on. There's a certain degree of professionalism one would expect from you after over a year of doing podcast. If you can't rise to the occasion, step aside. Let somebody else do the job, okay? What do you want? You want a cat? Would you feel better if one of the cats ran the show? Well, I got news for you. The cats ain't going to do it, all right? You get me. That's all you get. That's it. You could tune into another podcast. I don't know what to tell you, but this is it. This is as good as it gets. Gosh, I get aggravated with me. So here's the deal. I'm going to tell you about tonight's selection of links, okay? I decided to do India. Sticking a gun in front of your pants is a good way to shoot yourself, I think is what Chris is trying to say. So let me take a moment back up from India to rebut Chris. At the time, hi, you want to come up here? Come on. At the time, I wasn't going to go out and buy a holster. I'm a teenager. I'm living in Chicago. The gun is illegal. Everything about the deal is illegal. Yeah, I'm just a punk with a gun. Could I have shot myself, as Chris insinuates? Absolutely. I knew nothing about gun safety. Bupkis about gun safety. So, yes, sticking a gun in front of your pants is a good way to shoot yourself. But I didn't shoot myself. And it's not like I'm withholding information from you. That's a fact. I didn't shoot myself. I almost shot friends occasionally when we're playing around. You point a gun at them and it's loaded, and you think you know what you're doing. I know now you never, ever, ever point a gun at a human being if you don't intend to possibly shoot them. It's not a friendly gesture. But I didn't know that at the time because it was just above a toy. Having a gun back then was just above a toy. Now, back to India. India. I love India. I love the music, some music of India. I'm not a fan of all Indian music, but I picked up an Indian flute. I think is really swell. It can be very soothing. I urge you to check these links out. And then I chose something that had the flute and the tabla. I have tried to understand the tabla. The tabla is that Indian drum or drums. I have seen some tabla players. I can't follow their fingers, their hands. They make so much sound out of these small drums. Absolutely amazing. So I put something that really had some tabla music in it or tabla playing in it. And I'm really a fan of Bollywood. I am a fan. I don't get to see much of it. The Independent Film Channel, for a couple of months way back years ago, used to have one Bollywood movie every Saturday morning, and I would watch. Um, and then there was this. We used to eat at an Indian restaurant, had the Indian channel on. My daughters and I would go, and while we were eating, there was a big screen, and they subscribed to the Indian channel. We looked into it; it was too expensive, and they were always doing some Bollywood stuff. It was cool, man. It was cool. So check out the Indian dance, um, and then I think that was the right one. And then The Unbeatable. The Unbeatable was on America's Got Talent, and I believe they won. I hope they won. My God, but they were good. Indian acrobatic dance groups who make it to American television have frequently been extraordinary. I mean, extraordinary. The Oh, some of the things they have done defy gravity. They're so dangerous. Um, I cheered for V Beatable and Unbeatable rather, and I think they won that year. There's been some other groups that were on that Jennifer Lopez show. They competed on Dance World of Dance. They were phenomenal. They really deserve a shout out. And then the last one was just a choir. Uh, I can't explain more because I don't read the I don't really read Indian, even English Indian. So that's I urge you check it out because I think it'll be cool. I'm thinking that rather than plumbing the depths of American music, looking for something kind of novel, that's fun. But why ignore Thai music or Chinese, Japanese, Indian? There's some really swell stuff that's very um, in, indigenous to those countries. Didgeridoo music comes out of Australia, out of the indigenous tribes there. And if you've never been in a room with a didgeridoo when it's being played, you might have been in a room with a didgeridoo. If they weren't playing that thing, you're not going to know what them. It's a vibratory sound. In other words, it's not just the sound, is the vibration that is created with it. Not unlike certain bowls, singing bowls, the crystal bowls that people do. If you can hear those things, a recording of them, and appreciate them. But if you're in the same room with them, it's better. It is. Take my word for it. Don't take my word for it, and go check it out for yourself. For God's sakes, what are you arguing with me for? Or you're saying to yourselves, who's arguing with them? Perhaps it's me. Once again, my nemesis has arisen, the doppelganger or whatever he is, taunting me from within and from without. No, not from without. I'm not completely crazy. I'm partially crazy. So, where did we leave off before the voices in the head tried to take over the show? And by the way, if you think it's not exhausting sometimes to resist the voices in the head when they're telling you to do crazy stuff, you got another thing coming. And if you don't have crazy voices in your head, I don't know whether to feel bad for you or happy for you. It's like, but I'm of the impression that the voices in the head are kind of natural. Everybody's got them. Chris got them for sure, I know. But most of you do. Kathy Peterson, she's got voices, man. I've ridden with her enough times, and when she's telling you a story, you are keenly aware that she has a committee that has diverse opinions on one issue, right? She may object to that, so I better stop. So I gave my shot. That's the. Let's back up. I have now given my cat multiple injections of insulin. She's diabetic. She's watching the show as she often does at this time. And I tell you, she's watching the show in this regard. She does perch up there. That's Velvet. She does perch up there. It's not like this is the only time she perches, but she's been pretty consistently perched up there when I'm doing this. And that's kind of strange coincidence. Coinky dinky. I don't know. What in God's name is, her injections. So she started on insulin last night. She got her first shot while I was podcasting. My daughters were here. So then you have to separate them 12 hours apart. So I got up at, I was up already, but I have an alarm set for 5:45 a.m. and 5:45 p.m. And so I gave her shot at 5:45 a.m. and again at 5:45 p.m. She's taking it like a champ. It'll be, they said, possibly months before we see results. I'm not happy about that, but what am I going to do? You have to give them to them while they eat. So it turns out doing it first thing when I wake up, so to speak, she's been sleeping. She's got a little appetite, as do all three of them. You know what it's like for those who don't have cats. You get up at whatever time. Your cats know what time you get up. They're highly regulated beasts. So if you bring a cat into your home and they find out that you typically go to sleep at 9 and get up at 5 to go to work Monday through Friday, don't be surprised on Saturday when at 5 a.m. they're sitting on your chest wondering, what is your problem? Why aren't you awake? And so you're like, it's Saturday. I don't go to work. Cat don't want to hear that. Cat's regulated. It has expectations. And yes, as they say, expectations are resentments under construction. So very true for a cat. If you've had a cat that does not like you not getting up on Saturday at 5, they will act out. Now, my first cat used to, very cute, very cute. It started out cute. Here's what they do. I would wake up and the cat was on my chest and was taking his paw and poking me in the nose real gentle. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. And I would get up and hang out. Well, I had a wife, Sally, at the time. She didn't think it was cute on the days when she wasn't working and going to the gym. We would get up early and go to the gym. So she would try to lock the cat out of the room as if that would do. No, first she just got agitated. The cat would jump up on the dresser, and just sit there and knock things off until you got up and did something. So then she started closing the door, and the cat learned to leap up and turn the knob and get in the room. It would take several tries. You'd hear it long before she got in the room. Anyways, went on and on. Finally had to get rid of the cat or get rid of the wife. I got rid of the cat under protest. Now I can get up 5 times a night to go to the bathroom. When I get up around 5 a.m. to go to the bathroom, everybody's like, this is it. It's 5 a.m. This isn't just a toilet run. This is a food run too. And they will get underfoot. So I usually just, even if I'm going back to bed, I just toss the food down. And then again at night around 6, they've come to expect food. So I either feed them just before the podcast or just after. I mean, I'm already awake. They can't, what are they going to do to me? Kill me? They can't. I can tell you that. I'm a badass mother. Okay. So, that's living with cats. And now for the first time, I'm living with a diabetic cat. So this all started yesterday. First injection right around 5:50. And then this morning, pop. And then this evening, pop. And then tomorrow morning, pop. And I'm wondering what happens when you can't get home. Because once you start insulin, it's a thing. So I've got some issues that I've been thinking about all day, and I don't know how I'm going to resolve it. Because when somebody says I got to go home and walk my dog, you're like, yeah, that's the problem with having a dog. You got to go home and walk them, right? Well, now that and cats, I didn't have to come home and walk the cats. The cats took care of themselves. They got their litter box. They amuse themselves. I've never been constrained by cats. I don't sleep out because that would, that's not cool. But anyways, my credit card has been charged and I'm getting notified. How do you like that? Let's first off turn off the sound. What could I possibly have done? How could I be paying for something? Apparently, Verizon just charged me. How do you like that? All right. So, where did we leave off? I'm sorry. I usually mute my phone. I didn't mute it for some reason. Oh, so living with cats. But that's not the topic of tonight's show. You're thinking 22 minutes into his podcast, he's going to talk about cats and Indian music. And the truth is, not at all. That wasn't the plan. The plan was simply to kind of highlight all things are impermanent. A very Buddhist teaching, but a very relevant teaching today. And I say that because I think the world is in a mess. I don't know that the world is going to survive this mess. We are going to survive, but I don't know that the world will survive. By that, I'm suggesting that if the lifespan of the Earth was a potential another 1 million years, just hypothetically, we're doing everything we can to make sure that in 250,000 years, the Earth is flared out, right? But I'm not suggesting the Earth itself will come to an end, but that the human race is likely, maybe in 300 years, to kind of be. I think that as the Earth heats up, it's a fever, and you get a fever. If you ask doctors, why do I have a fever? Well, you probably would ask, well, what a fever is a way of burning out whatever illness you have. Your body responds by heating itself up and kind of trying to shed the virus, right? So the Earth is heating up. It wants to shed the virus. The virus is us, people. It's not the animals. It's not the cockroaches. It's not the birds. It's not the water. It's not the dirt. It's us. We are the virus. That's clear. I mean, if you have a problem with that, well, there must be a podcast somewhere telling you the Earth is flat. Maybe it'll tell you that global warming doesn't exist. I don't really give a, but I'm of the opinion, and Eckhart Tolle has talked about this pretty competently too, that when something reaches this fever, it kills off the virus so that it can get well. That's the response of the human body, right? So don't be surprised if we're in for a shedding, but I don't think it'll happen in our lifetime, not anybody here who's listening, but perhaps in my daughter's lifetime. I encourage them to live well now. I do, because I taught them at an early age, all things are impermanent. Um, that's kind of a I don't know, credo. So I learned in Buddhism how to articulate that. And now I have kind of adopted it as my ultimate reality, my ultimate truth. Well, what flows from that is really important to me. So if all things are impermanent, if this too shall pass, if it did, then I need to be cognizant of it, and something that important needs to be aware all the time. And we've talked about this. So I'm getting ready to go back to Chicago. Whenever I go back to Chicago, I have to prep myself. I have to remind myself how impermanent all things are. Because when I go to Chicago, and this is absolutely every trip now, for years, okay? Used to be you went back, everything was familiar. That's not true anymore. It's rare that everything's familiar. It's not unusual for significant modifications that have taken place in the Chicago area, whether it's the way they control traffic, whether it's the way they control people, whether it's whatever it is, there's going to be changes. Buildings that I thought were, enduring for all time, they've always been there, gone. Buildings that I think have no character and don't belong in that neighborhood, they're up. Over a period of time, Kathy Peterson, probably better than any of us, has experienced it. These speed bumps are freaking everywhere. So when they first start putting them in, this street has speed bumps. Then, a lot of streets seem to have speed bumps. And before it was over, years later, you're like, every side street has speed bumps. So those of us who grew up in Chicago, it was not uncommon when you got stuck in traffic on Irving Park Road and you're frustrated and you want to move along. You're like, well, you know what? At least if I take a side street, I'll be moving. It's making me crazy to be at a standstill. And so you would go up to one of the side streets. I don't know why I can't think of any right now. There's plenty of them, right? So you would go. Now you're not going to do that because you're gonna have to go through these speed bumps on all these blocks. You're not going to make better time. Not only going to make better time, but you have to slow down and go over the speed bump. You might just as well sit in the traffic, right? I used to plan everything according to my old schedule. So when I lived near the lake and I had to go somewhere west, I knew how long it took me to get to the expressway, the Dan Ryan, the Edens, the Kennedy. I knew, and I would head out and I would allow myself that amount of time to get there. And as years went by, I wasn't anywhere close to being where I thought I would be at that time. So I started having to make a lot of excuses to people. God, I'm sorry, I got caught in traffic. No, you must, when you go to Chicago, or cities like that are just a mess, you can't tell people I didn't think there'd be traffic. Well, you're an idiot now. I know I leave for everywhere early and rarely get there early. 11 o'clock in the morning, you think the expressway should be easy. I'm going to go get Kathy and we're going to go to the Art Institute, so I got to go down by her house. I have called her because I'm supposed to meet her, for instance, downtown for one of our jaunts. And I've had to say, I'm never going to make it. How about I just come park in your neighborhood somewhere and we catch the up? Because I'm not going to make it. I mean, it's just traffic is so intense. I've been in traffic since I got on the highway in Northbrook, which is still 30 miles from downtown and would be a 45 minute drive. And after a half hour, I'm not even at the first junction. So it's important for me, and I'm just using it as an example. So many things about Chicago change constantly. A restaurant you went to for years, suddenly gone. I used to go to this one Indian restaurant called Gandhi's. I just relied upon it. Went to Gandhi's one day, Gandhi's wasn't there, just gone, right? So everything's changing. People, I think that certain people, I can expect to see them with it, but they're gone. I don't know where they went. I have a friend, Alan, 30 plus years. We were friends. 1 year, not a freaking word. He's never spoken to me again, never explained it. All things are impermanent. Relationships are impermanent. Pets are impermanent. Parents are impermanent. Children are impermanent. Plants are impermanent. It's all. And this, if it sounds like, well, what's the point? The point is appreciate this moment, because this moment is the only one you really can rely upon. How many of us, and I would venture to guess, all of us at some point had an anticipation of a tomorrow that didn't arrive. And by that, I mean, we thought we could do something the next day. And when we woke up, that person was gone. An accident, disease, something had interfered with our expectation we would be able to see that person. We went to start the car The car didn't start. Must be the battery. Call the tow company. They come out. It's not your battery. You know what? This car now would be more to fix than it's an engine. It's whatever, right? I don't care what it is. Don't get attached to the anticipation of, just be in the moment. I don't get attached to the idea that when I get to Chicago, it's going to be, yay, everything's homecoming. I always go back with a certain amount of, I wonder what it's going to be like this trip. I go to my AA meeting. I wonder what it's going to be like today. I've been going to the same AA meeting here, 7 a.m. for 10 years. And I just announced this morning while I was leading the meeting that tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm going to go with a buddy and we're going to go to a completely different meeting in the morning because I want to try it out because I'm telling these people, I'm not sure I want to keep coming here and spending my mornings with you people. And there's some stuff behind that. It's not just Ken woke up and said, yeah, after 10 years, I don't want to share an AA meeting with them. There are other issues, and I've decided that I'm going to go to the Preston group tomorrow. And we're going to see how that works for me. It's not convenient for me. It's not at the same time. There's issues. I'll have anxiety. Things change. That's all. The pandemic changed the freaking earth. The pandemic should have anyways, changed your expectations of tomorrow. Way back in the beginning, as it was unfolding, and we were resistant to the notion that this was one, pandemic, two, that it would affect us, three, that maybe we were under the impression or firm in our opinion, technology, medical technology was going to be sufficient. And then, people were dying, and then, it's over 500,000 people later, and you're going, well, that's a bitch. I've never been through that before. You read about the Great Plagues, you read about the flu of 1918. None of us lived through it. Here we are. We just went through our first pandemic. Now, most of you learned how impermanent things are as a result of the pandemic, but you all also know people who have not evolved with the planet, with the presence of the pandemic. We all know people that are really just like, it's just like the flu. I don't think so. Or, they'll attack the vaccine. They'll attack COVID. They'll attack liberals. It's all a plot. You know what I'm saying? In other words, they are resistant to the change that is necessary to combat the pandemic. So instead of evolving with the notion of a international virus, they're hanging around voting for Trump. I will actually say a prayer for you on going to Preston. I'm guessing when Chris says that he has some of his own ideas about Preston. I don't know if he's ever been there at 7:30 in the morning. People, there's hardly a 12-step meeting in existence that you can't denigrate for one reason or another if you know the right people. And my experience is I can also find something good about it. For me, this is just, I'm sticking my toe in the water. So thank you for saying a prayer for me, Chris. I'm kind of thinking prayer isn't going to be that necessary. Nothing dramatic is likely to happen to me. In fact, I'll tell you what might happen. I might meet some new people, make some new friends, might even meet some cool lady because I haven't met that cool lady yet. So who knows, right? All right. So all things are impermanent. I can pick up anything I have. Obviously, this has a charge in it. That charge will dissipate whether I use it or not over time. But for now, still works. Oh my God. Anyways, the watch will die, right? I worry sometimes on my e-bike because it's battery operated, motor driven, And I'm always worried, well, the battery might malfunction. And then I've got this 60-pound bike that I've got to get home without the motor functioning. And it's got this controller that I push for more power, less power, turn off. And I always worry that I'm going to wear it out because I use it a lot. Whenever I need more power, I'm hitting it. I'm like, what happens when I hit it and the button's worn out and nothing happens and I'm stuck? And then I always think of this. I've had this for years. I've had a couple of these. I got 4 of them or something. They just don't wear out, and it's kind of the same principle. You hit it, something happens. I haven't had the buttons wear out. I've had the numbers on the buttons wear out, that kind of thing from my rubbing. That doesn't worry me. I only have the 2 buttons up and down. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about not being able to access the energy or the battery bonks out on me. I worry about flat tires too, but that's a little different. I can fix a flat tire. I can't fix a broken controller, a broken motor, or a non-functional battery. Yeah, sadly. So, where did we leave off? It's 6:37. Do you have any questions you want to pose to the jury, to the witnesses? What would you like in our final moments? Happened to me. Battery problem on TMP Hill. Gosh. Well, I hope that gets remedied because that's a significant hill for the lake, and it's a drag because the bikes are heavy. Although when it's happened, except for when I had anemia and I just couldn't ride. After a while, the battery wasn't working. I couldn't ride. I had to get help. But what has happened to me in the past when I've had a problem with the battery, of course, the good news is I can still pedal and the bike still moves. And so I get my heart rate up and I start burning calories. It was fixed. Good. Yeah, and your bike's under warranty, so anything that happens the next year or two, they're gonna fix that bad boy. I know they're gonna fix that bad boy. And they all have a problem. And cars now. I owned an automotive shop, and I'll tell you, I did transmissions. I didn't do them. Let's not get carried away here, Ken. Well, excuse me, but I owned the place. Yes, but you didn't fix a single car. No, I didn't fix a single car. Excusez-moi. Okay, so I had this. Well, go ahead, Ann. Ask away. So the guys that worked on transmissions in my shop tended to be old-time rebuilders. And they could rebuild any transmission. They probably could do it with their eyes closed or with something covered. But the computer component today made a mess of my shop because these guys would physically repair the transmissions, but then you need to flash the computer system that manages it, and that's where we would screw up a lot of times. Chris just wants to brag that his non-electric bike goes up hills just fine. Now, Chris keeps kind of, when he gets a chance, some of you saw the video I recorded of him yesterday, where he's like, I said, oh, he doesn't have an e-bike, and he said, that's right, he's like, I'm doing just fine. You know what? Malcolm Nichols just got an e-bike. Guy's twice as fit as everybody I know. He's my age, probably a year older. Just got an e-bike, and all of a sudden he's singing a different tune. He's realizing that while he didn't want an e-bike, but he couldn't find a non-e-bike right now because of the market, he's quite content. Anne says, we watch Broadchurch, trial scenes in England. The witness always addressed his answer to the jury, turned to the jury directly to answer every time. Is your question why, or is there more coming? I can kind of share with you what I think, because when you watch American television, or most trials, or even if you go into a courtroom and watch a trial, you will see a lawyer, a witness, a judge, and a jury. And what you would typically see is the attorney will walk up to as close as they're allowed to the witness, or they will stand at a podium. Some judges tell you can't you can only go as far as you can hold the podium. I think that's bullcrap, but they make the rules. So what I try to have been taught, and what I try to teach is talk to the jury. They're the ones that are voting. So in Broadchurch, apparently whoever is helping script them believes in that. There is nothing wrong with it. The witnesses are the people you are really addressing throughout the entire trial. I have been chastised by judges for looking at the jury while I was talking to the witness. So it looks like this. So during cross-examination, the prosecution has put a witness on the stand. Let's say it's a police officer. And the prosecution put a witness on, and he's just testified. And of course, he's the officer. He's testified something that is bad news for my client. But I've got some news for him. I've got some questions. I know the answer is not going to help the prosecution. It's going to help me. Well, I want the jury to pay attention. So I'm talking to the cop, and I'm glancing over at the jury to let them know you need to listen to this. So, officer, this was a real case one time. They said they saw a guy come out of an apartment that was a suspected drug house. And they tried to stop him, and he turned and ran back into the apartment, and they pursued him. And so in the midst of this pursuit, hot pursuit it's called, they entered the apartment, found drugs. But in the police report, at the same time they ran in that back door from the alley into the Chicago apartment, officers were going in the front door. Now, how did the officers in front happen to know exactly when to enter the apartment? Obviously, these guys were raiding the place. And it was a pretext that they were chasing somebody into the apartment. This was just, we call it pretextual. Is they make it up to justify an action that they took. So I'm looking at the jury. I say, well, officer, I noticed that in your report, or in all the reports, that there were 3 officers entered the front door simultaneously. Isn't that correct? I'm looking at the jury, right? Because I want them to hear this answer, right? Because I don't care what he's saying. On cross-examination, and I'm testifying. And that's what's missing in a lot of defense lawyers, is they don't grasp that when you're doing a direct examination, the witness is testifying. So tell me, what time of day was it? It was 9:10 p.m. And tell the jury what happened next. I was standing on the street. I saw this guy walking down the street. Please tell the jury what happened after you observed this person. Next thing I knew, another man came running out of the park. And what happened next? He pulled out a gun and he started shooting. What did you see? Please tell the jury. I saw flashes of light coming out of the front of this gun. I heard loud sounds. Okay, they're testifying. When cross-examined, the lawyer who's doing the cross-examination, even if it's the prosecution lawyer, should think of themselves, I'm the one giving testimony now. So now I'm saying, so you said you were standing on the street. It was 9:10 p.m. And this was at a time when the sun goes down around 8 p.m. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Okay. So it was pretty dark out? Yeah. And you said you were standing on this corner? Yes. Right? Yeah. Okay. But you said that my client came out of the park. Now that park is at least 1 block away. Isn't that true? Yes. Okay. So do I understand you're telling the jury that you were able to identify my client on a dark night a block away? Well, he was, doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? The jury needs to hear me planting this doubt. They need to hear me say, what are the odds that this person in the dark in Chicago, a summer, maybe a winter night, whatever, it's dark, saw my client clearly enough that they're willing to come into court and lie about what a good view they had. Even if they're telling the truth, I'm going to challenge their perceptions. That's my job. So when I put a client on direct exam, I'm coaching them. I'll usually say, listen, I'm going to talk to you, but you should talk to the jury. Look at the jury when you answer me. When I asked you, what did you do next? Look at the jury and say, well, I got in my car at that point, because this is how you make your client believe it. People looking at him, if he's talking to me or he's talking to the judge, the jury doesn't know how to adjudicate his credibility. Does that help, Ann? I don't know the people that write Broadchurch, so I don't know, but I think it's perfectly legitimate. But it's not necessarily like the usual, because people don't prep witnesses very good. If the police can lie to a suspect, why should anyone believe anything they say? If the police can lie to a suspect, why should anyone believe anything they say? Well, I don't have an answer for that. It's a little convoluted. But we can take that up at another time. I think I just don't know what your context is. All right, it's 6:47. This podcast ends at 6:45. Some of you may be saying to yourselves, but it's past 6:45. How can you say that the podcast ends at 6:45? It's the best I can do. And I'm not done, because now I'm going to do loving kindness. Let's see if Imioi. Let's just relax. Close our eyes. Bring our hands before our heart. Bow our heads. Take a deep breath. May I be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. May this practice guide us to a life of greater peace and comfort. May my mother and father, all my family members, and all my friends be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they too find the path leads them to comfort and peace. May those persons I have difficulty with, persons I resent or harbor any ill will towards, let them now be the recipient of my goodwill, so they may be happy, healthy, free from all harm, living good lives. And finally, to all living beings, wherever they may be, humans and non-humans, may all living beings be happy, healthy, free from harm, living their lives in safety, comfort, and peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. So what she is chanting, this is Imioi, is I've published this before by others, Mani Padme, and it's a chant, Om Mani Padme and it's derived from primarily Tibetan Buddhism, and it's a chant, a very appropriate chant. So thank you for tuning in tonight. You guys were swell. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your affection, because I do feel your affection. So thank you. Thank you, Kathy, Rose, Mark, and Ann, Joan, Chris, and Becky, Kathy. There were two Kathys. Ann, if she showed up, Ann Sisler, Rose, I think I said, Mike, And I don't know. I don't know who else might have been lurking in the shadows, but thank you. Good night.